I know it's not bone-chilling exciting, but the first 12 minutes or so is with the voiceover with some pictures and data and more in depth of why we chose ostriches and to our farm. And then after that, I go to a live video where I explain in detail as well with the birds in the background of what else played a factor in when we chose ostriches for ostrich farming. I know the video's kind of long, and if you got any suggestions of how I could have broke it up into videos, feel free to leave me a comment below. Otherwise, enjoy, and hope it's enough information to help lead you down the correct path. Okay, so I'd like to mention for a moment, originally when we started ostrich farming, before we had started, we had a farm of rabbits and quail, and we added some other products afterwards. But knowing that, we looked into farming saying, okay, these animals can add a great value to our farm. Excuse me. But they weren't the first animal we've added. Okay, so we started off with rabbits and quail, and they can make a good amount of money. We can do fairly well. Some out-of-the-box thinking and marketing, of course, would be needed, and a semi-popular homesteading revenue. Okay, now when we looked at the ostriches, we looked at them as more of the primary income, but not for a couple of years. And the reason being is that they can be very profitable. The more that you have, obviously, the more you can guarantee to customers, anywhere from your average person down the road, family or friend, to other farms and or restaurants that are looking for products, from even feathers for other people. So there's a lot there. So when we started, we were looking at ostriches as to add into our main income, something that we could invest into for the next year or two or three before they started producing. And we went into that knowingly, because nothing about farming in general is easy, quick, or fast, and you're at the mercy of the animal, also weather and the economy. So we said, okay, we're doing well with what we have. What can we add that's our main thing? That's going to be our really profit-driven animal in a few years. That's going to keep us afloat, and then go beyond keeping us afloat, going to that profitable, good business. We added coons later on this year, and that also is something that some people call a mortgage lifter, for a reason. Very little input, a lot of output. But the ones that we've added, the coonings, they do very well in a different type of market, and that's a story for another time. But that's what these birds originally added to us, was something uniquely different that could create an income more than just your yeah, we got a few of these, some of these, and we do okay. We wanted something that was going to create a large income, and that can be duplicatable and also grow in size, depending on our willingness to learn and how fast we can move through our learning curve with these birds. So when we first saw them, thought of an idea, we were thinking of something that, what can make it more than just a farm of a few different animals and do okay on? What can make it better than your average small farm? And that's what we are right now, and that's what we'll be for a little while. And we know that. We went in that knowing. But what can be more, what can be better and more than what we have? More than just sustainability. So we saw this animal, we saw the profit margins around it, and what we could do. And so we dived into it. We dived into a lot of research, and we dived into talking to people, and eventually getting the birds, because you're not going to learn as much online as you are going to have the birds in your backyard. Okay. So when these prices came out, we see some of these other prices that say, I showed a link to $7,500 a bird or $10,000 per bird. Those prices are not your typical prices. They're not something that I would say maybe there's a few farms in the U.S. that would even venture to charge that much. If they have proven genetics with great feathers, with good meat to bone ratios, and they're 4 to 5 years old, producing X amount of eggs per year, I could see someone charging over $5,000. Absolutely. We have rabbits that when we charge for them, non-proven, this means they're young, and good luck on training them, so to speak. And that's what it is. So you're going to pay less. But if you have something that's proven, yeah, they always have large number of kits, and they produce large rabbits, large amount of meat, and quickly. That's what people are looking for. So they buy into that. Same thing with ostrich. So when you're buying something that's really expensive that in that manner, it's not going to be your average sale. And even if people are doing it, I've not heard of anyone selling them for over $5,000 or $6,000. Typically, if you have a good breeding set or pair that's doing really well, you keep them because they're doing really well. Unless you're completely get out of the business for some other reason. So keep that in mind when you look at some of those numbers. When you go to Google search, what does it cost for an ostrich? What can I sell them for? Is what you're looking at on the other end. Those numbers on that over that $5,000 mark, that's really something. Maybe if you already have a lot of birds and you're looking to buy something that's proven, something that's genetically secure and strong to offer you the best product that they can. Okay, and when you breed into animals, you typically pick out your best of what you have and breed something else that has a certain trait that you acquire, and you work through that. And it takes that farmer a long time to do that. So I could see them charging an X amount more. But remember, for your average person that's starting out, even for a yearling, or I wouldn't say paying over $2,000 or $3,000, depending on your area, okay, and availability. But I don't see you paying over that. If you are, and that's all that's available to you, keep looking and see what's around. So with our research and what we did, we found baby chicks, and we did the slow plant. We did not do a fast growing, starting off with a bunch of older birds that are ready to breed. Okay, after that 2 to 3 year mark is when they start to breed. So we started off with small chicks. We've raised them. We've learned a lot about them, and that's helped us to be able to maintain their health and learn what to do when we start hatching our own chicks, to not lose those in a younger age, like we had in some of our other ones. It's a bad learning curve, but it's a learning curve, and it's one that we learned from financially and physically what to do. So, when I say these numbers that are $7,000-$10,000 a bird from the 90s, and that's what they were charging for a lot of birds, even at a younger age. That's an extreme amount of money for an animal that's semi-popular now, but wasn't then. And that's why they charged so much, and it wasn't sustainable. A lot of farms went under, and a lot struggled. And then there's some companies in different places that stayed together and helped people be more sustainable, and keeping the venture of ostrich farming into a business that it is today. So when looking into birds, I suggest going small. I suggest looking into the right type of animal. And when I say type, I mean there is a few different genetic lines that they've all been crossbred, from red-blue crosses, from reds and blues, and some African blacks. It's controversial. Some say there isn't any. Others say that they have a line that is pure, that's not been crossbred, and um, and rightfully so. And so we do your research and know who has what and why and how they fell into what they have. And if you see something extremely cheap online, do not just go and buy it. Reach out to Facebook groups, people that sell these birds, reputable places that have worked with those companies. If no one's worked with them and bought from them, they most likely are not someone you want to buy from. So do not just take the first snatch at, oh, this, they have a website, they have an address, they have all this stuff, and really cheap eggs. And I told the company, hey, I'm in town. I'm right around the block. And I wasn't. But I said, I can come right up to your doorstep and pick them up. You don't need to mail them to me. They wouldn't. They wouldn't meet with me. They wouldn't talk with me on the phone. And the one guy finally did talk with me, and his accent was so deep, it made me more leery. But they wouldn't let me walk up to the door. Oh, no, you can't come. And so that threw some red flags. So if you're seeing something extremely cheap online as well, be very cautious. Reach out to someone. Find someone that's done work with them before you venture into getting scammed. And it's happened to even in more experienced farmers. They've gotten scammed and hurt financially because of people that have websites, they have pictures and they have videos, and they look extremely reputable. But if you dive just a little bit deeper, they're not. And so be cautious. So people charging too cheap, and then someone that's charging so much money. And if you have the money to spend and you can validate the reasons for that, and financially, and have a business plan that's wrapped around that kind of a startup cost, then good luck to you. Use what sense that you have and business sense that you've learned to dive into something with that. If that's not something that you were planning on doing, be cautious and maybe start at a lesser expense, and more reputable people that are around you. Not more reputable, just someone that you can reach out to locally at a better financial situation for yourself. But that you got to look into that on your own terms of what you have and what you're willing to do. So I didn't want to carry on for too long on this little bit of voiceover, but I wanted to just kind of touch base on, when we started, we were looking for an animal that would add an equity to our farm beyond a small little income, and that would be something I can pass on to my children, and they could pass on even further if done correctly. And that's what it's about. It's not about me making the income today. I could do that with just about any job. It's leaving something to my family that they can continue to do if they want to, or sell and use that income to make their life of what they want. That's when you have kids, what's it all about? It's about them. So I'll end that with this, and enjoy the rest of the video. Hello everybody, welcome back to Ostrich Farming 101. And so what I've decided to do, as you've read the title, is give you a little bit of information on why we started ostrich farming. I like to always start out with some birds in the background and having these guys around as I'm showing the videos. Most people don't really want to see me. You want to know about ostriches, so I have them in the videos. But I might have to do some voiceovers and different information. That way I can show you some clip shots of what we saw online and what we've seen other people do, or just to kind of better explain everything. So as we're going through the process, there'll be a little bit of clips of our birds, perhaps other people's birds, and also links to what we've seen online and what we saw at first in general, and then what our mindset was at continuously continuing to go down the path of ostrich farming. So as you've seen, we started with a little bit more than 3 birds, and at this point, this is where we're at. I'd like to have another breeding set, but finances, times, and Mother Nature all in general, just how it worked out. Blue here was our original boy that we've got, and he does really well. As far as most birds I've seen people try to grab a hold of, you grab a hold of their neck and they're freaking out. Him, on the other hand, has been very well. Every bird is going to act different, and also keep in mind, if he gets spooked, it doesn't matter who I am, okay? So if you're watching this video, don't think that you can just cuddle up with your guys. He gets spooked, scared, doesn't matter who I am or anything else. Fight or flight. And he will flight, won't you? Yeah. So with this girl, she's a little bit better. She's letting me touch her now just a little bit. And the other one, well, that's about as close as I can get. So they all have their different personalities, how they grew up and what they do, and them two being the hens and him being the rooster, they just act differently as well, okay? So why we started ostrich farming? Well, why would you start any business in the beginning, right? You start for the money. So we started thinking, okay, these guys must lay some golden eggs by the videos and different things that we've seen. Not so much golden, but large. They have very large eggs, and you can make profit from that. So we looked at the animal itself. I particularly, when I look into things, if there's multifaceted ideas or ways to make money with one product, being the entire bird, or with different ways to do multiple things with one thing as far as feathers. You got everything from feather dusters down to arts and crafts, and so there's multiple things for each idea. What really interested me is when I looked at these birds, at first there was some skewed numbers online, what people say as far as what they're worth, what they cost, and a lot of the numbers were old from back in the 90s, and things were a lot different back then. So we kept looking, kept digging, kept getting information. We've asked local farmers, we visited them, talked to them, and joined the Facebook groups, the support groups that you can find through Facebook, and hopefully what I can use this channel for as well will be support for other people and getting your information in one kind of localized area and then building on something that maybe sparks a question to yourself. Well, what about this? Or why not this? And then you can lead down to more questions, which may lead to you not being able to do it just because you didn't foresee that being an issue or a problem or financial, okay? For us though, we looked at the birds and said, yeah, we can do this. Our pen is kind of small, and this is what we started off with, but our pen will be going back this way, and it will run another 200 to 300 feet back into the woods, and that will open up them a run area where they can actually stretch their legs and get some running room. The fence, so, all right, I'm going off on a tangent here, so let's go back to, so when we looked at the birds, we said, we got the land to start off, and we have some areas that we can grow into. And for me, I wanted to start off with as many birds as I could and also grow to as many as I can quickly. That didn't necessarily happen for a few different reasons. Finances being one of them, Mother Nature being another, and our ability just to learn as we go. And we're doing fairly decent on that end. Not perfect, just decent. So we can buy a bird, you can sell a whole live bird if you've hatched them yourselves, and the prices will vary. If you live in Colorado, if you live in the southern states, if you live in Michigan, like we do, if you live in Maine, the prices are gonna vary. How many available birds is there around you? And so the price for you to buy your bird is gonna be that, also to sell your birds, okay? So you have to build up some of the demand.
and your local area? Can you reach out to your local restaurants and different places? Do you have a place to get them USDA processed? If you're looking to do meat birds, can you take that demand to a restaurant and say, I can support this? Out of the box thinking, I knew I could do it before I started, and we're working towards it, but I just know that we can. A lot of people call roadblocks are not necessarily blocks, they're just obstacles. You gotta work through them. So we saw that as a benefit. They were decently priced, and reasonably so for what they are, for what you can do with them. Okay, so you can hatch a little baby bird and grow them up. And from the age of first week to 3 months to 6 months to a year, the prices vary. All right, so what you can make on each bird is also what you put into each bird as well. And so that cost and that fluctuation is going to vary greatly on how well you do and what you bought your birds for, what you're feeding them with, how much it's costing you, and how well you've done your research on if you free ranging, free feeding them all day long, or are you feeding them at a certain requirements throughout the day. Okay, so it's going to adjust your profit. So you got to do that on your own as far as what you have available in your area. Like we have available alfalfa here, but if I was in Texas and a few other places, not so much. They have different stuff down there, different prices too. So you can sell the live bird, which I like the idea of, which we have done. So selling the live birds, as you grow them up, even birds that we bought that we didn't necessarily hatch, we've sold 2 birds to a local petting zoo, which was pretty cool. I'm always in the talk to everybody, see who's interested, right? So we went on a family trip. We went out and said, hey, where's your ostriches? They didn't have any. They weren't very big farm either. They had a lot of exotics. And she's like, well, we thought about it. Here's my card. That's all we did. And then next spring, she says, hey, do you have 2 birds available? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so they're over there right now. So that worked out great for us. We also traded another male for another female, one of our males for another female, for diversity into the bloodlines, and helps him and it helps us. It was a good fit. So live bird is definitely an option, and one that I wouldn't pass on the opportunity for us to do again if we have to. Obviously not with 3. I wouldn't have anything left. But as we start our breeding process and keeping these guys, giving us some eggs next year, it'll be pretty cool. Okay. So, so we talked about live bird sales. Now I'd like to touch base a little bit on meat birds. That's a totally different animal, so to speak, of what you're able to do, right? USDA approval, finding a place that will process them, and right now with things the way they are, you're a year out. But you probably have time if you're just looking into this. So you'll have time to look into that. Once you've hatched birds, it takes about 12 months to 14 months before they're at the age and weight that you'd want them at for a slaughtering weight to take them in, okay? But look around, see what's available to you. Is there a USDA processing plant near you or a place near you that will actually process the birds for you? Something new and different. Some places are kind of like hands off. They got plenty of things that they already know how to do coming in, and it kind of puts a damper on getting your birds processed. So you might want to see what other venues are open on that time frame as well. Also, you can get, in Michigan, I could have them USDA processed, put them into a USDA inspected freezer, which is like $75 a year, and then it's like $25 or $50 a year after that. Not very much money. They come out, they inspect, it's separate from your other freezers, whatnot, and that gives you the option to sell your meat to friends, family, people at your local church get-togethers, live when you go to livestock auctions and you're talking to someone. Yeah, I'd love to try some ostrich. Well, of course you would. Everybody does. It's a red meat. It's not your typical turkey or hey, look at big old turkey or chicken. It's a red meat. It's a very good meat. So that interested us. And all right, so if we're not as big as we'd like to be, what's our fallback? And our fallback would be that. And accumulating sales to people that are interested in trying something different or adding something different to their diet. And I met a person with a younger son that every couple of years they have to switch what meat they're giving to their family or to their son because he becomes intolerant to it and becomes allergic to it. I don't remember the name of the disease, but I gave him my name and number and I said, hey, I've got X amount of different types of animals, from rabbits to pigs, ostriches, and if this is something that you have an issue with and I have animals for, I'd love to be able to support you and help with that. So I gave him my information, but you meet people like that. Hey, well, I can't have this type of red meat because it's full of fat and this, that, and the other. These birds aren't. So you have different opportunities because of what they offer is completely different than what others have, okay, and what other people are used to. So the meat part of the bird makes sense. The byproducts. Okay, so that's your live bird and your meat bird. And then you have the byproducts of the beautiful black feathers on their tail end, on their wings, their beautiful white feathers. They sell. Some people sell them individually per feather, and our hopes is to selling larger amounts in bags to um, your local crafting groups and places online that want to do projects. They don't want it to cost them $1 million. And if you have a lot of feathers after processing, you take those feathers, you go to talk to your craft show places and say X amount of dollars. You know, you can buy a grocery bag or you can buy a 10 gallon, 13 gallon, 50 gallon bag of feathers, depending on what they're looking for. Obviously, we'd keep some of the better feathers for different things, for different sales or crafts that we make to sell as well. So feathers sell, depending on your area, they'll go at different rates of speed. Okay, and I just seen some posting the other day for people looking for feathers. And we have some floating around here on the ground. We pick up ours, and after we've had to process a few, we've got feathers for that reason. So there's definitely people inquiring about it. You're gonna have to do some research and do some out of the box thinking. How do I get my product out into more people's hands and offer it at a good price and help make a little bit more profit or keep you in, you know, making profit at all. Skull and bones. So we've had people reach out to us that wanted to do school projects and they wanted to have the skeleton of an animal. We talked to the person and we told them how much it would cost for shipping, and they didn't get back to us. That's this one time though, but that happened. That's what it is. So you have to realize there's other people looking for other things. If you keep all the byproducts that you can, something will come up and you can venture out into other ideas. We have used some of the leg bones for dog treats for them to chew on. One dog didn't seem to love it as much. He's just a picky eater. He's spoiled with all the different types of meat we have. The other dog loved it. She just absolutely loves her bone, and the other one doesn't even mess with her about it. He's like, sure, have your thing. Most dogs do. They love this big old bone that they have. They chew on it. It gives them a lot of calcium and other vitamins and stuff that's in it as well. So bones are another product, and I've wanted to take, and we haven't done yet, is taking their nails. You can take their toenails and make it into other jewelry and stuff. So the byproducts are definitely another venue to making an income. All right, and then you have the fat that's on the birds, and there's a local farm that's near us that does that. They do soap, and they have a nice soap line. Also, I can put a link to our website, to our farm, and if you're looking for ostrich soap, you can buy some soap through them. They have small bars about this big, and they go for about $5 a piece with a lot of different scents. Okay, but so you can render the fat and turn it into soap, and there's other properties to it that make it more than just, hey, it's something to clean yourself with and that's research and something for another time. Okay, so that's another venue that you can use. So with saying that, you got the fat, you have the skeleton, you have the feathers, all these different things on the bird sell. And knowing that if one market isn't as openly ready available to you, or if one doesn't work out the way you're wanting it to, you have a fallback. And that fallback is what enticed us to go with ostriches. Okay, I don't get into the meat side of it like we want to, and we end up doing well with our brooding and hatching of our ostriches. Well, can you sell live chicks? I know a guy that was never his plan, but gets asked all the time, do you have some chicks for sale? Well, that's not really my plan, but yeah, I can sell them to you, is what he usually says. And that tells me there's an availability there to sell a lot of live animals if that's what you're wanting to go for. And one other thing I didn't mention was the leather. As far as I've seen so far, most people have a hard time finding someone that can do the leather due to a certain chemical that it takes to process the leather, and also in a timely manner. Places that are across seas that do thousands and thousands of birds have thousands of leathers that they process quickly, they dye them quickly, and they do it cheaply, and they send it into the U.S. that way. Uh, for a local person, you may be able to find a local hand that can do it, and you can do a few things with it. Uh, as far as our research in our area in Michigan, I haven't found anyone that does that. This is also one of my weaker subjects. I haven't looked into it as much as well. So do your research. If it's something that you're interested in, see what holds other people up, where you can find some tannery places that can tan the hides for you, and the process that's involved in doing it. And make sure that the butcher that you take them to is going to be able to butcher them in a manner that saves that skin. Okay? Because if they can't do that, then you're not going to have a product to sell. So we got real excited real quick when we first heard about these birds, that it was a farming opportunity for us, and we went out and put up a temporary fence. We put up a temporary building, actually a fairly permanent one. Wasn't built really the best, and through our haste we started quick, and animals like this, when we started quick, unfortunately they died quick too. We had a couple that impacted right away, and through not understanding impaction as well as we thought we would, because that was almost what everyone talked about, was impaction, impaction, impaction. Understanding that and saving a bird. And we thought we had it under control and a good grasp on not letting it happen to our birds. And that's what the first 2 or 3 died from, almost within the first week. But we didn't get our spirits down too much. We see that there is a great opportunity for these guys to do really well. People love to see them. They come to pet them. They want, well, from the outside now, they want to pet them. They want to spend time with them and just watch them move around. You know, they're not your average farm animal, and they're unique. Like we try to keep most of our animals here. Not all of them are as unique as the others, but these guys are the most unique, along with our coons that we have. Okay, and then having rabbits, as many as we do, and quail. Of course, you hear the chickens in the background, but that's more for us. And then we have ducks. I don't even know who those are for anymore. But they're for the kids, they're for us, if they ever have eggs. If they don't, then, well. Sorry, I thought I saw a muskrat in the pond. So, anyways, they're very unique animal, very fun to be around and take care of. And we knew that there's something more. They're eggs. Why? And I didn't talk about eggs. Okay, well, here we go. So eggs sell as well, and in different ways as well. So being that there's so many different facets, again, the eggs of the animal sell whether they're empty for X amount of dollars. I won't go over prices because they vary from my farm to the farm down the road, usually within range, but they'll vary. And they're vary in region, they vary if you have to mail them or if you can pick them up. So there's a price difference, okay? So empty egg cells, the unfertile egg because it got rained on cells, which means it can't be incubated, but it definitely can be fried up in the frying pan or made into something for dinner, okay? So that part of the egg sells as well, and for a pretty good price. And the fertile egg sells, all right? The hard shell sells as just an empty egg people like to decorate, and some color them, some draw on them, some paint them, some carve on them. And you have another whole facet of ideas and things that can, again, make you a profit and keeping you afloat as you're going along. So that was another big one, was eggs. They're not an overnight income, and you have to understand that. You have to know that even if you bought your birds breed ready this year, and say you did it early in the year, if you had to move them from one farm to another, they may be stressed out enough, the weather may just be crazy enough to where they don't lay, or they lay a couple and they get wet, or they lay a couple and you hatch one. Take that in consideration. What I what I always said to my wife is that we're getting these now, and our third year we'll make a little bit of money, and in our fourth year we should be doing fairly well. In our fifth year, we should be ramped up fairly good. And if we're not, then we need to evaluate our business plan, our business model, and tackling it a different way. And that's business. That's a totally different aspect. But for our business model, what we're trying to do right now is breed our beautiful trio and moving up into numbers that are sustainable. Um, my hope is in a couple years that we'll be in that 40, 50 birds a year range. Okay? And that's a very good income. That's a very good family farm life, and perhaps more than what you'd expect. And that would be with just the live sales. Okay? So the income would be about the same with meat sales, and it's going to vary on your byproducts. But if you're doing well in the other things, your byproducts are going to be just, hey, this is what's left over. Hey, this is the market I've already seen and tapped into, and you're pushing those out there to make up for maybe lost in sales from not having some birds hatched due to other reasons or whatever that you have. So when we looked into that we saw that availability, we saw that possibility with these guys. So we could go from very small acreage, a very small lot, and take that and make that into a very profitable business. And honestly now, if I didn't make a dime, I would eat you. No. Um, if I didn't make a dime, we're having a great time on our farm. We're having a great time with our kids and our family. They get to come out and spend time with these guys, and they helped feed them when they were smaller. They helped give them medicine when they were smaller. They help now collect their feathers. So it's a family event. It's a family venture. So for now, that's all that I have. So as I'm thinking about when I'm putting my stuff together, I may do some more photos and website links and different things and what we saw online, what enticed us to go with this. And in the beginning, what enticed us was we saw big numbers. Okay, in the beginning, we saw the incorrect numbers too. We'll point that out. People were saying, "Oh, the birds are worth $5,000 a piece," and you could sell these other trios for $10,000 a piece. And if that's information that you're looking up and seeing online, you close that website down. Okay, close that link down. Market is not useful. It's not true. Okay, the birds are not going for that much anymore. Depending on where you're at, They could be going anywhere between 15 to 25 to perhaps 35, depending on the breeding pair, the genetics, locality, accessibility to yourself. So a lot's going to matter. A lot's going to differ in price. But the first prices we saw were way out there, way higher. When we first started looking at this, like, okay, yeah, we can do this and this and this. And then we kept doing research, kept looking into numbers, kept asking people, well, what are you doing? How much are you making? Or what's going on? And we come to find out, okay, so these inflated numbers that we saw that were the 90s numbers, the 1990s numbers, are not necessarily the now numbers. And thankfully so. That way it's more sustainable. Okay? They're a red meat, and they can produce more meat per pound of what they eat than a cow. They can be more profitable than a cow. That also is something that enticed us to start working with these animals. Everybody knows what a cow takes a couple years to grow up and takes a few pounds of feed to make them that big, all right? So their price, their amount of pounds that they eat and for the meat that you get is less than a cow's. And that will also help determine what you're thinking. Like, well, why wouldn't I just get a cow then? Or why wouldn't I get that? Well, that's why, it's cheaper. It may be the same price, depending where you're buying beef. If you're buying certain Angus cows, you know, they're gonna be, you know, the numbers are outrageous, they're high. But for ourselves, I could buy some small chicks, raise them up, and have them do their thing, and then we can make a good amount of income through the meat or through the live sales. And knowing that it's not your typical red beef. I'm not going to compete with the farmer down the road that's got 100 head of cow or that has thousands of dairy cows. I'm not going to be able to compete with them guys. I'm not trying to either. We have an exotic animal for a reason. We're different. We want to do something different. We want to offer something different, something new, something valuable and intriguing into people's lives. When you talk to people about eating an ostrich egg, they're fully engulfed in how cool that sounds. What do you mean you can't just crack it open? They look at you like, what? Well, no, you got to drill it and the egg comes out. It's different. You're not just cracking it over the side of the bowl, you'll crack the bowl. It's really, really different. So when you're talking to people about, yeah, I'd like to try that. And they do, they want to try something different, okay? You have ostriches? Yeah, I want to come over. They come over, they see what you have, and they see other things that you have. Well, yeah, I want a rabbit, and they get a rabbit. Yeah, I'd like to try some quail. I'd like to try some ostrich meat. Whatever it is. When you just open up the aspect of people asking questions, when you have something different and unique, they're going to want to know about it. And they're going to ask questions. Well, what are you doing with those things? Is what usually, what are you doing with those is what I get asked. Well, this is the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. This is what we've been doing. And our plan is to move back another couple hundred feet, having room for our breeding trios, and then setting up our pens for next year for our eggs that we hatch. And the constant time that we spend with these guys, yes, go this way, thank you, keeps them a little more docile, which I'm thankful for. Where if you had breeder pigs, those breeder pigs get huge. I hear stories all the time about how they can hurt people and kids and different things that go on. Not that these guys can't, but I can also manage these guys a little bit easier than I would a 900-pound sow. That's why we have coon pigs. They're a different animal, different species, or different breed, I should say, different breed of pig, and they're unique. So something unique, different, and tap into your market of what's available and how you can make it available to others and profit while doing it. And have fun, okay? Our trip that we had to make to go pick these animals up, the first one, was done in a minivan, okay? You'll see, you can look at that video. It was in a minivan. Blue was in there, along with a bunch of other little birds, and we put them in there. We tried to separate them because of size. No, they were too attached to each other. We put them all together, going down the road hour-and-a-half trip with ostriches in the middle of a minivan. It was a handicapped minivan in the middle of a minivan. Just walking around, laying down, stopped at the gas station, saw some kids. Come here, take a look. It was creating memories, having fun. Enjoy what you're doing. And you will have a lot of fun doing this if this is something that your heart's into. Really good time. A lot of pictures, videos, and whatnot that you can have with your kids. And I may have to do another couple short segments for video. I don't want to just carry on for too long. But that's the main gist of why we started ostrich farming. First, it was about the finances. Second, it was the diversity of the product that they offer. And third, we have a lot of fun doing it. And we meet a lot of great people. These people that are online, if you're willing to learn and you do your own research and you're asking more specific questions than what type of fence do I need? Because they get asked that a million times. And that's something you can search in the search bar, right? If you're asking more specifics on maybe the size of fencing, of how big the slot should be, or how thick the gauge should be, they're right there answering it for you. They're talking to you about it. The people will chime in of what they use, how long they used it, what problems they've had with it. And that's what some of these videos will be some collection of what others have learned and what we've learned. But you can have fun, meet good people that will tell you what they're doing and show you how to do it, versus your other competitors. If I was starting a Reebok shoe store and I went to Nike and said, hey, what are you making that out of? They're gonna look at me and say, go down the road, guy, right? They're not there to help you. They're not there to encourage you. They're not there to give you information, back you up and tell you, hey, don't do this or do this. So what you'll meet online through these types of people that do this animal is really wonderful. So if this is something you're looking into and it's something that you're wanting to do, I look forward to seeing you on the other side of the video someday. Have fun. See you soon.